private jet.
I asked
¿Usted lo liberaría, Presidente
Bukele? Can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Inside El Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. I mean, we just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Have a criminal,
Yeah, I mean, there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick, these are sick people. Marcus, you have something to say?
Yeah.
Let's hear the question from this very low-rated anchor at CB.
Thank you, President. Do you plan to ask President
Low
Bukele
rating.
to help return the man who your administration says was mistakenly
Which one is it?
deported? The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador?
Well, let me ask Pam, would you answer that question?
Sure, President. First and foremost, he was illegally in our country. He had been illegally in our country. And in 2019, two courts, an immigration court and an appellate immigration court, ruled that he was a member of MS-13 and he was illegally in our country. Right now, it was additional paperwork had needed to be done. That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs, if they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
Can you just also respond to that question? Because, it's asked by CNN, and they always ask it with a slant, because they're totally slanted, because they don't know what's happening.
Sure
That's
to
why
answer the
nobody's watching
question.
them. But would you answer that question also, please?
Yes, gladly. So, as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So, it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As two immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So he had a deportation order that was valid, which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had to be returned because of the foreign terrorist designation. This issue was then, by a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him back here. That issue was raised to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said the district court order was unlawful, and its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously, stating clearly that neither Secretary of State nor the President could be compelled by anybody to forcibly retrieve a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador, who again is a member of MS-13, which, as I'm sure you understand, rapes little girls, murders women, murders children, is engaged in the most barbaric activities in the world, and I can promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
Oh my God. Look at El Salvador's president. He's just like, man, this guy's, he's getting at it. Pam Bondi, and God, I keep forgetting his name. It has to break it down to CNN and the media that is trying to flip the script in saying, hey, you guys kidnapped this MS-13. They're not saying MS-13, but they're saying this El Salvador citizen. Keep calling him a citizen, but he's not a citizen. Well, he is a citizen, but he is also an MS-13 gang member. And as soon as Donald Trump, like they said, declared that MS-13 is a terrorist organization, that changes everything on how the system works in treating these people. It's not the typical Biden way where they do whatever the hell they want and no law and order. And no, it's not how it is anymore. CNN needs to, they need to get rid of CNN. CNN doesn't need to be a news organization anymore. They need to clean up shop and reorganize their journalistic ways, just like the Democratic Party needs to reorganize their ideology into making sure that people will actually elect them for actual policies of action. I mean, Let me know what you guys think.
In the Supreme Court, Steve, was it 9-0?
Yes, so it's a 9-0
In our favor.
in our favor against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual at El Salvador's sole discretion was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time.
Well,
No version of this legally ends up with him ever living here because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it, per the court, can only be directed to him.
I asked
¿Usted lo
President
liberaría,
Bukele,
Presidente
what is
Bukele?
can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm supposed to have suggested that I smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right?
It's
I mean,
always
how can I smuggle, how can I return him to the United States? Like, I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not gonna do it. It's like, I mean, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
So you can release him inside El Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing, I mean, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. I mean, we just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
Well,
not gonna
they'd love
happen.
to have a criminal,
Yeah,
released into
I mean, there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick, these are sick people. Marcus, you have something to say?
Hey, Trump's not lying, okay? These are sick people. Why are you going to advocate for terrorists or people that have committed heinous crimes to come and stay in this country? We are trying to get rid of them. These reporters need to go to the victims, the families of these victims of people that have been murdered by illegal immigrants and people that are in terrorist organizations, now MS-13 being one of them.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen outlined it. I don't understand what the confusion is. This individual is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States and was returned to his country. That's where you deport people, back to their country of origin. Except for Venezuela, that wasn't refusing to take people back, or places like that. I can tell you this, Mr. President. No, the foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple. End of story.
And that's what the Supreme Court held, by the way, to Marco's point. The Supreme Court said exactly what Marco said, that no court has the authority to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. We won a case 9-0, and people like CNN are portraying it as a loss, as usual, because they want foreign terrorists in the country who kidnap women and children. But President Trump, his policy is foreign terrorists that are here illegally get expelled from the country, which, by the way, is a 90-10 issue.
Well, Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago, and they said that it must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over, and that's why nobody watches you anymore? You have no credibility. Please go ahead.
President Trump, thank you so much. How many illegal
Excuse me.
criminals are you planning on exporting to El Salvador? And President Bukele, how many are you willing to take from the U.S.?
As many as possible. And I just asked the president, it's this massive complex that he built, jail complex. I said, can you build some more of them, please? As many as we can get out of our country that were allowed in here by incompetent Joe Biden through open borders. Open borders. You probably hear open borders and you can't even understand it because nobody can understand it. Nobody smart or with common sense can understand it. So we have millions of people that should not be in this country that are dangerous, not just people, because we have people, but we have millions of people that are murderers, drug dealers. They've been allowed to come into our country by other countries that were very smart.
You all know damn well that the Democratic Party is the one that's funding CNN. They're the only reason CNN is existing right now is because of the corrupt Democratic Party. That's the only outlet right now that I really know that's out there. What was her name? I forgot her name. I'm forgetting a lot today for some reason, but she, the lady, the CNN reporter in the Oval, in the office here, is asking so many questions that are basically against Trump's policies and what he got elected on. Everybody knew that he was going to do a mass deportation. Everybody knew that he was going to do all these things that he's been doing. And people are freaking out, and the main people freaking out are the people on the left, freaking out. And saying that he's going to destroy this country. Trump's raising the prices. We're going to go into a depression. I've been seeing people in my comments saying things that are completely ridiculous. If you actually are paying attention to what's going on and what Trump actually got elected on, and he's doing what he said he was going to do, it's no surprise to the actual people that were paying attention. El Salvador's president, I mean, day one when he got elected, this is what I love about the El Salvador president. Day one, he went with his attorney, went around the table with all of his officials in the government, and he said, I have this attorney here. He's like, I'm going to have him investigate every single body in this room to make sure none of you are corrupt or doing some shady shit, basically. He's like, me running this country, I'm running this country the right way. If there's people in the system that are stealing or doing something they're not supposed to in the government, you're not supposed to be here. Trump's doing the same thing. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like and subscribe. I would appreciate it. Till next time. Peace out, everybody.